Hey friends, I'm Rachel and that's Bowie, the puppy back there. And I wanted to go live today to talk about the fact that our economic system is obviously not working for the vast majority of us, needless to say, and to also discuss what I have come to understand seem to be ways to address those problems that we can come together to scale so that we can get out of the trap of the old economic system. And at this moment in time, at this moment in terms of like the spiritual context of what's going on now with ascension to 5D, rise of feminine energy on earth so that it can come back into balance in a healthy way with healthy masculine energies, which in my opinion and in the opinions of lots of people, haven't been in place on earth for a long time. Things are changing now, and I want to make sure to do the best that I can to share what I feel I've come to realize about how we can be a part of this shift to get us out of these lower energies and into this sort of like just this better world that we're shifting into, because the existing economic system, in my view, has done so much to keep us in this energy of lack and in this energy of scarcity at a sort of lower vibration. So I'm gonna hop in and look at a couple websites and like pieces of news that I wanted to touch on today. The first is this quote. If you've ever come to a live or watched videos that I've created and shared before, I come back to this quote a lot. Okay, so this is from Buckminster Fuller, who was an American futurist who lived in the 20th century. He said, "You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete." And we've seen that to be true in governing systems, like the introduction of democracy on a wide scale in modern times. It clearly seems to be the case. It seems to be the fastest way to actually affect change. And this has been, I'm sorry, no one ever calls me. I don't know why my phone is ringing. It'll stop in a second. I lost my train of thought. What was I going to say? We can just get into why the system isn't working. Okay. This was in the New York Times yesterday, I believe. May 5th, yeah. So we've seen through the rise of Trump, and I struggle to put all of this into words and feel frustration with the limitations of language when I'm trying to talk about all of this. So I'm hoping that this can also like connect with you intellectually, but even more importantly, it can connect with your intuition and like your heart. So I've shared before that like a lot of people, I did not expect Trump to win any election, let alone the second election in 2024. And I grieved it for a while. But what I felt that I came to understand after meditating more and reflecting was that, interestingly, first of all, from an astrological standpoint, Trump's selection happened just as Pluto had regressed back into Capricorn, just before it came out of Capricorn for good, in our lifetimes at least. And that representation, which I think is worth mentioning because it's fascinating, and I find that the more I learn about astrology, like the more it's worth paying attention to. Pluto is about destroying what's dysfunctional in systems, right? And Capricorn is about top down hierarchical structures. It's about money, governing systems, and so forth. So Trump's role, I think, though he is not aware of this, seems to largely be about bringing about the destruction of these things that are no longer serving us, that are no longer working. And it seems to me that a way that that's functioning is that he's making things so obviously corrupt and bad to more and more people than ever before, that only those who are really committed to denying that reality, those are going to be the only people who continue to buy into the way the old system works. And that aligns with, like what people think about how things are moving spiritually in terms of ascension. So part of what's happened with that, to my chagrin, is that cryptocurrency as a sector has become strongly associated with like kind of the worst, grossest MAGA energies. And this was literally just in the Times yesterday, where, they're talking about these crypto deals that Trump is making while in office that are just like rife with conflicts of interest. There's going to be an investigation, maybe here, which is something. But yeah, it's like a $2 billion deal that Trump's son is brokering with, I think it's actually with, I mean, it's an Emirati venture fund. It's backed by um, a government. It's just a problem in so many ways. But the reason I bring this up is because the mainstream narrative surrounding what cryptocurrency as a sector is has become this. It's like, oh, it's the worst expressions of everything that's wrong about late stage capitalism. It's not good. It's all about greed. It's all about scams and so forth. Sort of the worst expressions of toxic masculine, wounded masculine energy as well. And I'm not here to defend cryptocurrency as a sector. I have no interest in that. It's as a sector. I mean, I've been involved in cryptocurrency in some capacity since 2013 when I first started buying Bitcoin at $90 a coin. And at that time, I was so excited to see what this technology could do to address the misogyny and general discrimination and just like the poor design that I witnessed when I was a stock trader in Chicago and on Wall Street. And the climate was very different than a lot of people who are now aware of cryptocurrency and have opinions about it had never heard of cryptocurrency back in 2013. So I've seen these sort of like changes in the cycles since that period of time as the sector has grown and become much more valuable as a whole in terms of like its monetary value. So the reason I'm mentioning that is that through those cycles, through this nearly 12-year period since I first started buying Bitcoin, through the introduction of Seeds, our social good blockchain tool, which is about transcending the limitations of the old economic system, I've kind of been treated by like shit by that sector. So I have no interest in defending it for that reason, but in a larger sense, most of what's going on in it is not good. And so it's put me in this strange position in trying to talk about Seeds and how like actually those tools, blockchain tools as expressed through Seeds. I mean, a tool is not inherently good or bad, good or evil, right? It can be used for whatever purpose the person who has that tool chooses to use it for, right? But I think systems that are well designed help everyone involved in that system to behave in a better way, to behave at a higher level. And that's what Seeds by design works to do. Through Seeds, instead of like in the old economic system where it was zero sum, it's about taking, it's about, like we need government to create laws to stop the richest people, the richest corporations in the old system from completely ripping off individual citizens. Like literally right now, I am in the midst of a legal battle with a multi-billion dollar cryptocurrency platform, a centralized one, and they're trying to make it so that I can't talk about it in any way. I'm not going to say their name for that reason, but it's such a I've gone through so much rage and grief about the fact that this can even happen. And I'm defending myself and I'm not a lawyer. I have no legal training. I can't afford a lawyer right now, in large part because I was robbed last year. I mean, that is the reason I explicitly can't afford one, but it's also the principle of the matter. Even if I could, I don't think we should have a system in which a company that has $9 billion can rip off, a person who founded and has struggled to keep a social good organization going for many years, as I have with Seeds, and who's dealt with like the discrimination associated with that, because the main reasons that I have personally had trouble with money ever have had to do with the bad actions of wounded masculine energy. So that happened like more obviously when I was robbed, but then also just in a systemic sense in that women are paid less, and in venture capital, which is the sector that funds tech organizations like Seeds, like 1.9% of funding goes to women founded organizations, and it's getting worse, and it's just a joke. Like that sector needs to die. And Seeds is working in the way that, like Buckminster Fuller talks about again here, to present a new sort of option that renders VC obsolete. Because part of the idea with Seeds is that anyone can redeem a seed to ask for monetary help and receive it as a gift from our community. So at scale, the people that have to deal with discrimination that keeps them from getting the money and the resourcing that they need to do the healing that they need to do, to make the creative project that they know that they're destined to make, but they just haven't had the support that they needed to get it made. What if they could just redeem a seed to get that instead? And then that old system can just do what it's doing, which seems to be dying, and it'll take care of that on its own. So this is what Seeds is about. And today, I've been doing some of these lives lately. Maybe you've noticed. So we have a course that is closing on May 22nd. And so I started doing these lives like last week, excuse me, expressly because the course is coming up. But the course just sustains Seeds so that you can get through this period in which everything is still difficult. And because I have this knowledge about, like being a professional, what I learned when I was a professional stock trader, which I then brought into trading cryptocurrency, I can share that with people. But the course is really a vehicle to support Seeds. So that's like the ostensible reason I started doing these lives last week. But the larger thing is just that we don't have to be trapped by this old economic system. I think I know I mean, most people don't know about Seeds. So we're kind of indoctrinated into this way of thinking in which it's just like, oh, there's no other option, right? The only options are free market capitalism and communism. And both of those have been problematic, obviously. I would argue because of wounded toxic masculine energies operating in both of those systems. So Seeds is really intentionally about bringing in a healthy balance of feminine energy with a healthy balance of masculine energy through a solid structure from the outset. That doesn't mean it's perfect, that it doesn't have flaws and problems that it needs to address and things that the ecosystem needs to improve. I'm hopeful that with a little bit more support in the coming year, we'll be able to take care of product developments that need to get taken care of that haven't been. But this is here now, is what I'm saying. It already exists. So the larger mission of all of this, every effort that I'm making on YouTube, every attempt that I make to talk about all of this, including the course, is about helping us get out of this, helping us get out of the old system because it holds us down and we've outgrown it as a society. We are outgrowing it as a society as I'm speaking. And we don't have to agree to be a part of that anymore. We can just come over here and focus our energies on scaling something that will render the old system obsolete. And Seeds at scale can go a long way toward accomplishing that. It just really, it can. When we're breaking down, if we want to get more granular, the elements of the old system, many elements of the old system don't work well, right? Some of the most dysfunctional, I would argue, maybe it's better for me to do this like this now, is the fact that the old system, late stage capitalism, if we want to call it that, of course, it requires that we have capital in order to do the thing in which you need money to make more money. It takes money to make money. And so maybe that's okay if you're the product of a rich family, if you have generational wealth, if you were born in a rich country like I was. But for the vast majority of us, that is not the case. And so as a result, we have to go to school, and school's about largely teaching us to be good capitalists. It's considered to be a high status thing if we come through, if we go to what's considered to be a good university and then we get a job at a rich corporation. For a lot of people, that's the dream. And certainly that makes sense if we're coming from a background where we don't have a lot of money, because that can mean that we have enough money to live a comfortable life. But in doing that, we are trading our time to get that money, and it enriches oligarchs who, at this stage, we're seeing the stuff with Elon Musk is so fascinating and embarrassing, because it's just I feel like what it symbolizes is so of this moment. Of course, if Trump is bringing about this destruction in the old systems and making that dysfunction very obvious to more people, it makes sense that if the old economic system, which is represented by Capricorn, is also, going through this reckoning that the person who is the biggest beneficiary of it, because he's the richest person in recorded history, like he's in the mix too, and revealing his incompetence and his evil's too strong of a word. He's not smart enough to be intentional about that. Somebody like Peter Thiel is smart. I wouldn't say that Musk, whatever, he's not a genius. He's the dumb guy, smart guy. And so it's just kind of funny too that he's in the mix, if it didn't mean that there was so many awful things happening in direct connection with that, like the demolition of US AID, for example. So I still feel sad and angry about all of that happening, but I do feel like it fits within this larger context. And the reason I mentioned Musk was because of this idea of oligarchs and the fact that the vast majority of people within the old economic system, even if we're well educated, even if we have high status jobs, even if we have jobs that we enjoy, many of them are at corporations that are very wealthy with this system design in which we're trading our time for money in order to get the money that we need to survive in the modern world. So I think a core thing is to help people get away from having to trade our time for money. Because the other piece of that is that not only does it keep us in lack, it makes a lot of people very afraid to lose their jobs naturally, which makes sense. And then on top of that, if you have to rent, if you don't own a home, rent is crazy. Like I feel like in the future, when people look back on what was going on at this moment in history and they think about sort of like some of the worst practices that society needed to outgrow, I think rent, and certainly rent when the owner of a home is a corporation, it really needs to be abolished. It's a different thing if it's like a second home or something, or a vacation situation, but subsistence living and the notion that people have to pay a subscription every month just to continue to be indoors, that's so crazy, and it sets so many people back. So if we're talking about those two things, trading our time for money and rent, Seeds is working to address both of those problems and has already in the past as well. In that, so this idea of trading your time for money, it's backward, I think, or rather the system that funnels into it is backward. We shouldn't be going to school to learn how to develop schools to fit into the existing economic structure because it's not working well. We should be receiving resources and the support that we need to learn what we need. Education is good, but we're each here for a purpose, right? This is a really interesting and important moment in time in the evolution of humanity, I think. I think we all chose to be here. And to think that we're not given the space to uncover what we're uniquely here to offer, which is almost certainly not working a 9 to 5 job for fucking whatever oligarch's company, that's a travesty. That's what the focus should be. And as we're getting away from, at this point in history, I've only kind of just recently landed on this conclusion, like in the last week, I think. I don't think corporations should exist anymore. That structure, what good is it really doing? It's it's a scary structure. The law in the United States views corporations as people. It's it's so messed up in so many ways. So, if we're instead offered the support that we need to do the healing that we need to become clear on what we're here to offer, because I think in a lot of cases, if you feel unclear about that, it's because you just haven't had that space and time. And then I could go on a rant about like big pharma and how so many people are medicated for depression and anxiety. And I think that when a lot of that's, at least in my experience, I'm not in any way like denigrating what medical doctors offer. I'm not a medical doctor. What I found in my own experience is that when depression and anxiety have come up, when I've meditated, when I've done Vipassana to help clear them, the things that I've realized through that process have helped me to see what I needed to do to sort of like fulfill the mission that I'm uniquely here to fulfill, right? The old system doesn't allow for that either, because in so many cases, it doesn't give a shit if we heal. It just wants us to be productive, monetarily productive, so that more money is generated. And it wants us to do whatever to like suppress our shit so that we can keep functioning as good capitalists. And that isn't good for anyone. it's not, it's not helping us to progress in the ways that really matter. So, through seeds, as I mentioned earlier, you can redeem a seed to ask for the funds that you need. That can include, for example, the money that you need to live for 3 months so that you can take care of what you need to take care of, to heal, to work on a project, whatever that might be. And seeds is still quite small. So this is something that can work much more efficiently at scale as more and more people know about seeds and are involved in the ecosystem. The other important piece of that I don't think I mentioned yet is that when you help someone in need through seeds who has asked for help, you receive seeds cryptocurrency and thanks at an equal or greater value than the value of your gift at that moment, depending on what type of gift that you choose. So, like if you had a need and you asked for $5,000 to cover your expenses for 3 months so that you could work on, I don't know, a film that you wanted to start making. If I gave $100 toward your need, I would receive $100 in seeds and thanks at market price at that moment. So that makes the gift net neutral, right? It didn't cost me anything. But because I did that and I have this $100 worth of seeds, if and when they go up in market value over time, I could see substantial, I don't even want to say profit because that's so suggestive of the old system, but the value of what I have, that $100 in seeds, could go up a lot. And seeds are down in market price as I speak right now at this moment. And part of the reason for that is because of Trump's stupid tariffs that made no sense to anybody. The other piece of that is that seeds needs to connect with more giving people who want to support the ecosystem, because that's what will send the value up over time as well. That said, even though the value of seeds is down at this moment, um, as compared to where they were at 5 years ago, which was at the beginning of the last cryptocurrency market cycle, they're up like 100x. So if I had given that $100 to your need or whatever back then, that $100 in seeds that I received in thanks would now be worth $10,000, right? So it's dependent on the liquidity that's available in the market and so forth. And I don't know how much I should go into like that design. I'm happy to if people ask, but that gets us into like the intellectual and away from the heart. And I want to make sure everything that we're talking about and doing is grounded in the heart because that's where this is coming from. And then in terms of something like rent, for example, in the past we had, I mentioned this before, but we had a US military veteran redeem a seed, a single seed, to ask for the funds to buy what was to her a new mobile home. It was $10,000 that she asked for, and she received that through seeds as a gift so that she could have a home so that like she wouldn't have to pay rent. She'd been living in a mobile home previous to that was falling apart, and the country that I live in wasn't taking care of her as someone who had provided its service for X number of years. So Seed stepped in. And so at scale again, we could support each other to get away from these traps that keep us stuck within the old economic system. And again, I really feel like rent is such a crazy, ridiculous aspect of that we just have accepted and not necessarily questioned because it's just been that way for a long time. And that doesn't mean, I mean, I'm living in a house right now in Portland, Oregon that I rent. But my landlord is a great person and she's an individual, and it hasn't felt like I had to like engage with somebody who was wielding power over me and abusing power as it's felt in the past when I've rented from corporate landlords. It's a very different dynamic. So I think that's a different situation. And it's also a rare situation. I'm 41 years old now. Before moving to this house, like a year and a half ago, I'd never had a good landlord. They'd all been bad and had abused their power in various ways because that is the norm in that system, unfortunately. And so we need to get out of that too. The other thing about this that I want to share, because I really want to reach the people who are thinking about this spiritual moment, who have thought about ascension, who are interested in meditation, who have been aware of this wounded masculine energy and its damage. In that, as I shared before, Seeds is intentionally about bringing a healthy balance of feminine energy and a healthy balance of masculine energy into the ecosystem as a foundation of its design from the outset. And again, that isn't to say that it's perfect. And to be clear, I'm speaking about energies like yin and yang. So humans of all genders have those. And they're also within the systems that humans have created. And because things have skewed toward this wounded masculine energy for millennia, I believe, that's what everything is, almost without exception. And so Seeds is consciously working to not replicate that. As I'm sharing that, from a design standpoint, in terms of like the practical ways that Seeds works, I mean, needless to say, women have a fraction of the amount of wealth that men do in the old system. I think women still own 1% of the world's land. And land ownership is a whole other conversation that we could have in another time, and sort of like what's bizarre and problematic about that. But that's still a thing, right? And in addition to that, we know that statistically speaking, that women are more likely to give. In the US where I live, I don't have the stats in front of me. I should have pulled those up in advance. I apologize. But if I recall correctly, the most recent studies show that something like 65, it was close to 2/3, I believe, of those who donate to charities, those who give to charities, were women in the US. And another piece of what Seeds is working to address is the way that female people and every sector that is imbued with feminine energy, the care professions, teaching, the arts, all of those are undervalued in the old economic system. And women have less wealth as a direct result of that. So if we have an ecosystem like Seeds, which we do, Seeds has been operational now for many years, in which it's aligning with that higher vibratory behavior, that generous spirit, such that the economic system itself can reward those women for giving, can reward anyone who is interested in giving and helping others, that addresses that problem in I think, a kind of beautiful way. If we have an ecosystem which allows people to build wealth because they were kind, it's not going to create more Elon Musk. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to create Trumps who made money through exploitation. And I don't know how much I want to get into like arguing about Musk's shortcomings. I mean, he wasn't doing like overtly racist shit like Trump's organization was in the 70s, but it's still about taking. He didn't found Tesla, he took it over. And that's sort of like perhaps it seems, I mean, electric cars are good. It's good to have that as opposed to cars powered by fossil fuels. But Musk doesn't embody a generous spirit. He isn't doing good. It's just not, his thing is not about healthy feminine energy. We can put it that way. And that can't be disputed, I think. So Seeds is designed in such a way that it can uplift and support those types of energies. And I think that is a vastly improved system design overall, especially when I think about what I used to see as a Wall Street trader when I started to recognize how stupid it was that system just manufactures a sense of scarcity because it was literally zero sum. If I made $1 trading, it's because somebody else lost that dollar. And that doesn't make any sense because money is everywhere. It's constantly being printed by governments. It's all over the place. It's just that the old system has created these gatekeepers, this situation in which the vast majority of people are locked out of the vast majority of wealth, mostly for reasons that are not of the highest good. So, yeah, this is what Seeds is working to do. And I'm trying to share this and explain it in a way that can be easily understood, but that also connects with the heart, as I said, and reaches the people that are interested in what's going on spiritually in this moment in time. I almost like feel, I don't know. I feel like so many people started selling courses that now as soon as I talk about our course, it can like turn people off. And that's a bummer. When I started teaching this course in 2019, it was a different sort of environment. So that wasn't the case. But as I mentioned earlier, the course supports Seeds so that we can be sure that 100% of the value of gifts that come through our ecosystem go to people in need. And it's also effectively free. I didn't mention that because you get Seeds cryptocurrency when you sign up for the course as well. So it's, I think, a very good deal. I know it's a good deal. And I know there isn't anyone else out there that I've been able to find that can offer the experience and the insight that I've accrued through the years that I spent as a pro trader from the time I started buying Bitcoin in 2013 and what I then learned in trading in the cryptocurrency sector. And since I mentioned Bitcoin, I had these pulled up as well. So we can see here, this is the current Bitcoin price. So if we look at the max price, it's like 105-ish. This isn't even going to show it. It's closer to 105,000 US dollars. So since the market has recovered following Trump's tariffs, which affected the stock market, the sort of traditional financial system, and then because so many institutional investors have gotten involved in the main cryptocurrencies in recent years, it also ended up affecting cryptocurrency prices. This didn't used to happen like 7 years ago or something like that in the way that it does today, for sure. So the market has rebounded since Trump's backed off on that, finally. And Bitcoin right now is very close to its all-time highs of roughly $105,000 a coin. So something that is just, it's, I guess it's just the nature of teaching a course like this. But it does bum me out, is that a lot of times people who are not experienced traders will, like they'll be aware of something and then they won't get involved, they won't get involved. And then when they see that the price is really going crazy, that's when they'll get into it. And by that time, because of the way the markets work in the traditional system, it means that the biggest opportunities to gain value from that have been missed. So I don't want that to happen to good giving people. It's true that Bitcoin is very close to its all-time highs right now, but the markets aren't going crazy or anything. And other cryptocurrencies of note, here's Ether, which is the second largest cryptocurrency by market capitalization. It's one that I'm personally very interested in. It's still substantially down. I mean, if we look at, this is how it's performed over the last 6 months. It's down over 30% in the last 6 months, and it hasn't rebounded in the way that Bitcoin has. And just to use these two as examples because they're the best known cryptocurrencies, this tells me that it's likely what's called oversold, which means that there can be amazing opportunities to buy at these price levels if you believe in the value of that cryptocurrency over time, the value of any asset over time, right? Buy low, sell high is an adage for a reason. And it's in those moments where things look less certain that those opportunities are often most available, right? By nature of the way that system works. So as I mentioned, because our course includes Seeds, it's effectively free. And you also get Seeds at the market value, at their market value at the moment that you sign up for the course. So again, I have to be very careful with disclaimers and note that past performance doesn't guarantee future results. I don't know that Seeds are going to go up 100x in the next 5 years, but they did in the last 5 years. In fact, they went up a lot more than that and then came back down. So we'll see what happens. But my larger intention with this in the past, the course has connected with too many people who were just interested in cryptocurrency as a for-profit thing, especially like back a few years ago before it really started to seem super gross because of bad actors in the space, before it kind of got that label in mainstream news narratives. So where was I going? I lost my train of thought again. It's I mean for this course, and I mean for seeds certainly more broadly, to connect with the people. Like the dream is to find as many people as possible who recognize that the old system hasn't been working, who are longing for an alternative, but haven't known that something like seeds exists, and who are then, like super excited to be involved in an ecosystem like this, which is about creating a way for people to build abundance through giving. And the course sustains seeds in the meantime until, that's a widespread understanding that a lot of people are engaging in. And I think that may happen, we'll see, in the next couple years. But like over the last few years, because I've been working on seeds for a long time, and I thought that things would have changed more by this point, like the energies would have shifted more to make things more supportive for something like seeds. And they haven't yet. And I think, there have been lessons for me to learn in that meantime. But I think we are on the cusp of some big shifts heading into 2026 and beyond. And so, yeah, it just kind of felt like the external energies need to change a little bit more. Like Seeds needs to keep doing what it's doing. It needs to keep working to improve. So do I as its founder. But the external energies are going to need to shift before it can really be supported so that it soars. And that's what it feels to me like is coming up. I would have hoped that it would have happened before now, but I can also understand why it hasn't, because sort of more of these breakdowns had to take place, I think, first, which again, I think relates to what Trump's inadvertent role is in this stage of human history. So, anyway, if that is interesting to you, please consider liking and subscribing. I talk about concepts like this often. I talk about seeds. I talk about these larger ideas. I've been doing a lot of vertical live meditations. If you ever want to join those, where I'm just silently doing Vipassana meditation. I'm not a teacher or anything, but if you wanted to join those, you're totally welcome to, and it'd be great to have you. I'll put the link to the course registration in the chat. And if you're watching this recording, I mean, it's in there anyway in the description, but if you're not yet ready to commit or whatever to joining the course, which again closes May 22nd, so that's a little over 2 weeks away. This is the live version of the course, the version that I teach live, which I do once per year. I should have mentioned that earlier. But if you're not today isn't the day that you feel is the right day to sign up, you can also sign up just to get notifications, like email notifications in the at a link in the description if you prefer to do that instead. But yeah, I should stress that a little bit more. So yeah, this closes May 22nd. And back in 2021, 4 years ago, I committed to teaching this course live once per year. So this is that for 2025. The last time I taught it live was in April of last year. So yeah, if you want to be a part of the live experience, this is when we're doing it in 2025, and it would be terrific to have you. So I'll put this in the chat. And if you're watching the recording, as I mentioned, it's in the description as well. And thank you. Thank you for your time and for your attention. Thank you for your inquiries, for questioning the existing system, and for tuning into your intuition. Because yeah, I think we are, as I said, here at this really pivotal moment in human history, and I think we chose to be here. And I think we're going to see some really dramatic transformations in our time. And I think that seeds could play a prominent role in all of that. So that's what I'm doing to try and share about it. Okay, I'll let you go. I hope to catch you later. I'll be doing more lives like this up until the close of the course on May 22nd, which is a Thursday. So yeah, I'll catch you again sometime soon. Okay, bye.